northern areas of Pakistan, one of the most rugged and isolated corners of the earth. A network of glaciers, snow-covered peaks, and remote barren valleys. This is the greatest concentration of high mountains in the world. The Himalayas, the Karakorams, the Pamirs, and the Hindu Kush. Is it any wonder that the people who live in these high mountain valleys call their home Bami Dunya, the roof of the world? The environment is harsh, fiercely hot summers and snowbound winters. The area is a semi-desert. Many places get only 10 centimeters of rainfall a year, the same as some parts of the Sahara Desert. In these high valleys, life depends on melting snow, on water channeled down from the surrounding glaciers and snowfields to irrigate the fields below. Over the centuries, little has changed. This is Teru, over 10,000 feet up in the Hindu Kush. At this elevation, only one crop can be grown each year. Still, more than 200 families live here. The situation of Bibi Jamal and her family is typical.
है मुल्क तंगी शेर है मुल्क मल बिरसी खुलोनी इस पर थोड़ा जबरदस्त सख्ती शेर है हिम बो गयन जमीनों कंपुताई शेर इस पर बो तंगसुस
Jerkina kore o ganiti hatatan jutro justopo o. Fico nishiki haya usaki pongo chevos. Jibi shapik haya. Haya tatiri ganiti agelen tawazre. Megara tima kurale sen jeste muto mushakati hai bagai. Tuznu le ata Pakistan Hashtani gadni ki, Shomajagni ki, Marzaktagni ki, Taglihu ziyad hai.
More than 800,000 people live in these valleys. The Muslim population of the area embraces in roughly equal numbers three major traditions of Islam: Ismailis, other Shias, and Sunnis. 90% of the people depend on farming for survival. Families are large, while land holdings, although fairly equally distributed, are very small. They average only half a hectare per household. Most families can barely sustain themselves. In many villages, what little farmland there is threatened. This is Pasu. Every June, melting snow swells the raging Shimshal River and washes away hectares of precious farmland. Once, more than 300 families lived here. Today, what land is left can only support 60. Most families in the northern areas own livestock and struggle to keep them alive.
صعب مشكلة من لكن مو بسيط شقاد الصنين كتير وشش خايا نكتب ليش وما بلا إتو ليش مي بلاك مي شقازنا من وطن وكتر باينو taake humo kha jamane ute puisha ya sara elimination laga ite omane khotar kamzor roman bimari dushisa saab ne mo basina jaman pelum ene dadu shaman shinimo pahadiat jaman.
A growing population is putting increased pressure on already scarce resources. Shukri Begum is 85 years old. 3 times a day she has to walk 2 kilometers to fetch water for her large family.
ऐसे कांचुक कहीं गाना ते बेन गुजारा पे गाना वतनी जो फेरी गई हुई तू जा बेन तो साल के बोलू जो बोद बु जाके वतनी वही ना वही जा बट वही पिटू जा को हमें बता तक बन नीचे एक दो मुझको बन ऐसे कहते
Overall, the people of the northern areas do not grow enough food to feed themselves. Food has to be imported, and to pay for it, men must go down country to work as laborers. There is plenty of barren land, which can only be made productive by channeling water down from the mountains. This needs cooperative effort. No individual farmer can do it on his own. Historically, people in the northern areas were ruled by local feudal chiefs or mirs, who were able to use their control of the land to organize people to work collectively. As feudal powers declined, no organizational structure was developed to replace them. Only 10 years ago, the mirdoms were finally dissolved. The mirs are gone, but the need for group action remains. The per capita income in the northern areas is roughly $150 a year, which is about half the average of people in the rest of Pakistan. Not 1 person in 10 can read, and the infant mortality rate is among the highest in the world. But in spite of all the poverty and the problems, the region does have potential. Existing crops and livestock can be improved, and new ones introduced. With effective marketing, the apricots, grapes, and walnuts could be sold elsewhere. With enough water, the area under cultivation could be doubled. But the region's greatest potential lies in its people, hard-working, determined to produce the utmost from their land. If they could organize their effort to bring such changes about, family incomes could be multiplied. One man who has been most concerned with these people and their problems is His Highness the Aga Khan. On a visit to the region in May 1983, he reflected on their needs.
I first visited the northern areas in 1958, and it was a time when this part of the world was totally isolated from the mainstream of national life in Pakistan. With the opening of the Karakoram Highway, it seemed to me that there was development potential that was possible for this part of Pakistan, but that the thinking that had gone into that potential was at a quasi-industrial level, at a national level. And the nature of this country and of these people is small units of people, totally isolated, in one of the most difficult parts of the world. And in Thus a program was created, which enabled them to participate in developing what they thought they needed, and in finding solutions to practical everyday problems. The opening of the north of Pakistan via the highway simply would not have the impact on the number of people it should have.
In response to this challenge, the Aga Khan Rural Support Program was created in December 1982 to improve the standard of living in the northern areas. As a non-profit company, it is designed to evolve a model for rural development which can be copied elsewhere. The Rural Support Program, or AKRSP, has begun its work in the districts of Gilgit and Chitral. It is working with all the people of the area, whatever their branch of Islam. And like the people they serve, the program staff also represent various Islamic traditions. They're all Pakistanis, selected solely on merit. The program's general manager is one of the world's most experienced professionals in rural development. Shoaib Sultan Khan describes the thinking behind the company's approach.
What we are dealing with is really that we have a large majority of small landowners. Now, when you are dealing with such small landholders, obviously you have to devise a strategy which is suitable to their development. Our aim is to create the capacity for self-help. Traditionally, self-help has meant villagers providing free labor and land for projects on an ad hoc basis, often designed by outsiders. AKRSP redefines self-help as the villagers' willingness to organize themselves, to acquire human skills, and to generate capital. What do we mean by self-help? Individually, farmers are too small and too scattered to get access to what they need to increase production. They need self-perpetuating village organizations to overcome the disadvantages of small scale and to manage more effectively their human and material resources. So that's why we precondition our support on villagers' willingness to organize.
The objective of the Rural Support Program is, therefore, to provide villagers with the ongoing capacity to identify and solve their own problems. AKRSP requires the villagers to meet regularly, with all households represented. This prevents domination by any particular faction. The village organizations must also agree to send representatives for training and to save money on a regular basis. As an entry point to encourage villagers to organize, the Rural Support Program provides technical and financial assistance to a productive project. A project that the villagers identify, which will provide additional income to at least 75% of the households in the village.
And my experience has been, if you organize smallholders around the productive sector, they will stay organized. Once effective village organizations have been established, we collaborate with them in the introduction of the innovation so necessary for development. We are applying these principles not just in a few villages, but over 2 entire districts, covering 500,000 people in the area of 43,000 square kilometers. There are 200 villages in Gilgit district, as you know, and we have already been through our process of the diagnostic survey to nearly 112 villages in less than 5 months.
The diagnostic survey is the key tool in initiating the Rural Support Program strategy. It's a series of interactive meetings between villagers and the AKRSP team. The three phases of the diagnostic survey are called dialogues. The process begins with a first dialogue. Here in Teru, the general manager outlines the objectives and methods of the program. Then the villagers are asked to identify their primary needs and select a project that will increase the incomes of most or all households.
उससे आगे बड़ा फूल हम लाएंगे ताकि आखिरी लाल पहाड़ तक वो कवर कर सकते हैं और उस पानी से पैदावार बढ़ा सकते हैं। यहाँ तक हम अर्ज करते हैं, हम सबका ख्याल यही है, हम इन दो चीजों को बआसानी कर सकते हैं और हम एग्रीमेंट दे सकते हैं, जितना हमसे हो सकता है हम इसी तरीके से करेंगे। आप सब करेंगे। कहाँ से कहाँ तक जाएगा? वो फूल जो है आज जो है साथ ये नीच वो सरकार उसको व्यवस्थित करके
The general manager explains that as a general principle, each village can receive a grant for only one project. It's up to the villagers themselves to choose which one is most important. This often results in long discussions.
असल करता जहादुम असल करता जहादुम
अवल नंबर दो खानों से हाँ 2 नंबर छोड़
चिकन सुनाता है
ये कितना फासला होगा?
फासला इसका 4 मील होगा सर।
इससे कितनी जमीन आपकी आबाद होगी?
इससे यहाँ से नीचे जो दरिया तक जो जितना जमीन है ये सारा आबाद हो सकता है सर। यहाँ से हम पैदावार बढ़ा सकते हैं। हम लोग कामयाब हो जाएगा।
The first dialogue has settled which project is to be tackled. The second decides how it should be done and works out the technical details. Here in Hanuchal, the villagers have also identified the construction of an irrigation channel as their greatest need. Because they have local knowledge, they also participate in the survey and design of the project. An AKRSP surveyor is here to begin the feasibility study.
मैं आपको वो जगह बता सकता हूँ जो तरीके से हम जो है वो जगह देखेंगे उसके बाद आपको सर्वे करके हम वो अलाइनमेंट बताएंगे किस तरीके
Here at the source, the villagers point out the high water mark, and the surveyor estimates the amount of discharge. Will there be enough water to feed the channel? And will that be enough for the land they need to irrigate? Every 100 feet, they take an alignment. Field data gathered like this helps to determine how much rock and earth needs to be excavated, whether explosives will be needed, and how long the work will take. As a policy, the rural support program will only work with a village on a project which can be implemented and maintained by the villagers themselves. The alignment ends at the area to be irrigated. One day, this barren land will be watered by the melting snow and transformed. Later, at the program office, the surveyor uses his field data to prepare blueprints and a cost estimate. These are then checked by the senior engineer, Hussein Wali Khan. When this project is finished, 125 hectares of barren land will be brought under cultivation. And every family in Hanuchal will almost double its land holdings. The villagers of Chalkbala have already held a second dialogue. Here, water is to be piped more than 1,000 meters, from an irrigation channel on one side of the village, all the way over to this area, known as Kurkun Das, the barren lands. Now the villagers are ready for a third dialogue. This explores the terms of partnership between the Rural Support Program and the new village organization.
आपको याद होगा चेयरमैन साहब, जब 12 जनवरी को हम यहाँ आए थे तो आपसे जो गुफ्तगू हुई थी उसमें जो आपके साथ छल्त बाला और छल्त का जो इलाका है और आगा खान देही इश्तराकी प्रोग्राम के साथ जो इश्तराक की बात थी, उसमें पहली शर्त ये थी कि आप ऐसे मंसूबे की निशानदेही करें जिससे कि ज्यादा से ज्यादा घरानों को फायदा पहुंचे। आपने एक जो प्रपंदास की आपकी स्कीम है उसको सैराब करने की, उसकी निशानदेही की है और उसका जो सर्वे है वो हो गया है। तो क्या आपको मंजूर है? ये स्कीम आपके लिए है।
The senior engineer explains the results of the second dialogue. He details the costs for materials, wages and maintenance, and these are discussed until everyone understands and agrees.
तो अक्सर हम कुछ समझने से आपको तो जो मुल्क के जहान या जखन तो अयर भी सोचते होता है तो पतियों को भी शुरू करता है जमीन हम तो झगड़े जो के हमारा ऐसी शर्त है अगर सो मीटिंग तो दुबारा तो असर कार्रवाई असों को मुल्क घुसल योग मीटिंगों से अलावा कुछ शायद अराउंड की सोच हर मीटिंगों में जा हो गया तंजीम में जहानत तो जेब में जेब बचत था ये खड़ा था बचतें मतलब RSP में का ताल्लुक इस सोच दो में की बचत से एक्सपेंड सिस्टम अगर मीटिंग देखो तो जैसे बस आज की कार्रवाई असली रसोई ताल्लुक खत्म है कहाँ से काम सुन लिए हैं आप चल्स बाला वालों ने अपने सदर सेक्रेटरी और नेपाली किसान चुन लिए हैं। सदर कौन है आपका? लतीफ साहब। आइए लतीफ साहब। तो मैं लतीफ साहब को क्यों चुना है आपने सदर? हमारे फायदा दे देगा मतलब ईमानदार भी है। सेक्रेटरी कौन है? आइए आगे अली साहब भी मंजूर है। अच्छा आपके मिसाली किसान कौन है? आइए आइए छोड़ दिया आप विकास करते हैं और कुछ भी करते हैं? हाँ सर। अच्छा तो क्यों ये इनमें क्या खास बात है, क्यों आपने इनको चुना है मिसाली किसान? ये पक्का जमींदार है सर और मालवाशी का काम भी अच्छा फैसला करें कि आपकी मीटिंग कब होगी, हफ्तावार कहाँ पर होगी और किस दिन होगी? हमारा मीटिंग नहीं होगा सर, जुमा के दिन 4 बजे होगा। अच्छा जुमा के दिन तो आप लोगों से पूछे ना, सब लोगों को पता है जुमा के दिन 4 बजे और कहाँ पर होगी? लंबरदार का घर में ही हमारा वहाँ पर होंगी। तो उन 4 तंजीमों के जो
Once the villagers agree on the terms of partnership, the Rural Support Program normally hands over the first installment of money for the new project. But here in Chalt, an argument is developing. One man has tried to get control of the new organization by insisting that the check be made out in his friend's name.
सबसे पहली चीज तो ये है कि जहाँ तक आगा खान देही इश्तराकी प्रोग्राम का ताल्लुक है, उसकी नजर में जिम्मेदारी जो है वो पूरी तंजीम की है जो पैसे वो दे रही है। हमारी नजर में जिम्मेदारी ओहदेदारान की नहीं है। जहां तक चेक का ताल्लुक है, चेक किसी की एक आदमी की जेब में नहीं जाएगा। चेक जो है वो विलेज ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के नाम है छल, चेक जमा होगा बैंक में या जो भी आप फैसला करेंगे।
उस वक्त तक ये चेक नहीं मिलेगा तब तक हम पानी का मंजूरी नहीं देंगे। ये 1,10,000 मेरे जमीन से गुजर कर मेरे कुल से पानी जा रहा है। उस वक्त तक आपका इत्तेफाक नहीं होगा, उस वक्त तक हमारे पास नहीं आएंगे, खत्म पानी नहीं देते। सही बात है। हमारे पानी से, हमारे कुल से, हमारे जानी माली कुर्बानी देकर रॉबर्ट कुल निकाला है। इनका कोई हक नहीं है इसमें। उस वक्त तक नहीं आएंगे, इनकी तंजीम बराबर मुकम्मल नहीं हो। गलत गावर तमाश नहीं हुई कली बेन हर कोम के निस हुई अनु शहरत अनु वतनर असई को गवर्नमेंट से या हुकूमत से या जे के दिगी न से गाने शरारत न आने आवाम बूटे से रहे त्या एक क्या दू मनुष्य से रहे की चाहे गाने शने से ठीक है नहीं आने असई मंजूर है सादरी बस ऐसे कार क्यों थी ने इन जादी में बुशा है स्कूल के इन एस पार्लियामेंट बुशा है स्कूल में सिर्फ रोज बुचन रोड मारा हाँ चल गयो मैं डेप्यूटी में डॉक्टर सन एक ओने किसी ने एक डॉक्टर सन को
In the end, the people decide that the check should be in the name of their new organization, and money can only be withdrawn when the whole organization says so. For the people of Chowkbala, this is a major step forward. The first installment is handed over so that work can begin. There are 216 villages in Gilgit district. In the first 5 months of the project, first dialogues have been held in 128 of these. Feasibility surveys have been carried out in 107 villages. Implementation has begun in 38. Here in Gupis, work on the project had to begin at the same time as spring planting. So the village organization decided that everyone should take turns. And while half the members work on the irrigation channel, the other half work in their fields. In the first 5 months, 15 projects have been completed. The average project cost about $10,000 and took about 2 months to complete.
They're not mega projects, they're micro projects. They're very small projects in terms of the capital invested or in terms of the time that they take to implement. But they have an immediate impact on the community they are serving. I think there is a much more quick response from the villagers themselves than I had expected. I've always thought of these people as being extremely hard-working, extremely resilient, but they are much more hard-working and much more resilient than I thought.
For instance, between the village of Japuka and the nearest road, there's a mountain. So the villagers identified a link road as their first priority. Here, 2 of the villagers discussed the project with senior agriculturalist Hassan Mehdi Naqvi.
ये बना ये आगा खान दिल्ली स्ट्राइकी प्रोग्राम के चंद अफसर इनके इंजीनियर और हमारे गांव के चंद नुमाइंदों ने ये फैसला किया कि इस रोड को 2.5 महीने में तय करें। हमने 10 दिन में तय कर लिया। 10 दिन में कैसे मुमकिन हुआ? 2.5 महीने का काम आपने 10 दिन में कैसे कर लिया? रात दिन मेहनत करके और सारे आदमी यहाँ लगा के हमने तय की। इतनी जल्दी क्यों आपने की? ये हमारे फायदे के लिए काम बहुत फायदा था, हमारी बहुत जरूरत थी इसकी। आप खाद हम आसानी पहुंचा सकते हैं और पीठ पर भी आसानी पर, गधे पर, घोड़ों पर भी आप आसानी ले जा सकते हैं और फल फ्रूट भी हम जीपों पर अपने घरों से ही ले जा सकते हैं और लकड़ी भी गिलगित आसानी पहुंचा सकते हैं।
The village organization also makes its own decisions about the maintenance of these projects.
अच्छा, अब आपने इसकी निगहदाश्त के लिए क्या फैसला किया? क्योंकि हमारे गाँव में 3 कौम बस्ती है, इसलिए हर एक कौम से हर एक नुमाइंदा हमने चुना है। वो सड़क 3 हिस्सों में बांटे गए, तकसीम कर दी गई। तो ठीक है, अगर जिस कौम के सड़क में जो सड़क खराब हो जाए, टूट जाए या गिर जाए, तो उस कौम को वही नुमाइंदा उनको इतला देंगे और वो आकर ठीक करेंगे, कुछ भी नहीं उनके रहेगी। अच्छा, फर्ज क्या एक शख्स कोई कुछ लोग नहीं आते तो फिर क्या करें? अगर कोई आदमी नहीं आ जाए तो हमारे गाँव के रवाज के मुताबिक 20-15 रुपये इसको जुर्माना कर देते हैं।
Activities like digging irrigation channels, constructing flood protection bunds, and bringing new land under cultivation are important projects, which will result in increased production. But these activities are more than exercises in economic development. Here in Chapuka, people got together to build a link road, and in the process of making that road, they built something even more important, their own self-sustaining village organization. The road became an entry point for development. Now they have their own rural institution, which in the future will serve them by providing a wide variety of economic and social services. The village organization helps answer the need for such things as training and access to supplies, markets and banking.
अब मैं जनाब वाइस प्रेसिडेंट हबीब बिन से दरख्वास्त करता हूं कि वो आके बचत के बारे में मेंबरान से गुफ्तगू करेंगे।
Assalamu alaikum.
Before AKRSP arrived, nobody believed that villages in the northern areas could save or make use of banking facilities. People thought they were just too poor. The Rural Support Program believed that capital is power. The village must build its own capital. The program makes its help conditional on all the members of the village organization accepting the discipline of regular saving.
इस सिलसिले में बैंक भी बवक्त जरूरत आपकी मदद कर सकेगा। और जितनी ज्यादा आपकी सेविंग बढ़ती जाएंगी, उतने ही आपका बैंक का इश्तराक आगे बढ़ता जाएगा और उतनी ही ज्यादा फवाइद आप बैंक से हासिल कर सकेंगे।
On average, a village organization has the capacity to save about 15,000 rupees a year. This capital is being used as collateral for loans for agricultural development. Individually, farmers can't arrange for the input of agricultural supplies such as fertilizer or for better marketing, but together they can.
متزامن بلا مقتدم بتبع تنظيم جاري شوطان يار تلم بلوم के मैं कुछ कम हरबाई कम दूं अच्छा जमींदार बन और बुशार शोक में असवाज अतश करती दूं।
The Rural Support Program is also exploring ways of organizing the women who live in these highly traditional societies. In several villages, women are forming their own organizations to develop income-generating activities. In the northern areas, women do much of the work, but their social seclusion means it's not easy to assist them directly. This is a major challenge for the Rural Support Program in the future. To reduce crop losses, improve livestock, and introduce new crops, the people of the northern areas need new skills. But how can extension agents reach farmers on an individual basis when their holdings are so small and scattered?
आज हमारा जो सबक है
The Rural Support Program provides ongoing training to representatives selected by the village organizations. They learn improved farming techniques and also develop collective management skills.
5 रजिस्टर रखते हैं, जिसमें रजिस्टर मेंबरान, बचत की रजिस्टर, कारोबारी रजिस्टर, कैश बुक और खाता शामिल है। आज हम कैश बुक के बारे में गुफ्तगू करेंगे। ये आपका है कैश बुक दही तंजीम सुल्तानाबाद। हर एक कैश बुक के एक सिफा होता है और एक सिफे के 2 कॉलम होते हैं। एक आमदन का कॉलम होता है और एक।
The villages help select the curriculum and also help teach.
कैश बुक में
The manager of the Mohammadabad organization explains how he keeps a record of his organization's expenses.
मिसाल के तौर पर आज है 2-5।
The sessions cover the theory and are backed up by practical demonstrations.
आप आलू जो है इसी जगह मैंने लगाया क्योंकि फिर इसको दोबारा बनाना पड़ जाता है, या इस साइड पे आपने लगाया आलू जो है वो सेंटर में लगाया। अब आप इलाज नहीं करेंगे तो फिर दूसरे शक्ल में आ जाए।
Farmers also learn about plant protection and are introduced to new varieties of seed.
और ये भी करेला।
When they return to their villages, these model farmers will tell the others at the village meeting what they learned and also demonstrate it on their own fields. Because they are permanent village residents, model farmers are well placed to introduce innovation to these traditional farming communities. These organizations are also forums where villagers discuss common problems and try to find solutions.
मेरा सवाल है कि सिर्फ ये टंकी बन गया और भी हमारे बहुत से मुश्किलात यहाँ पर हैं। इंशाल्लाह और भी होगा, हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि और भी आप लोगों की तकलीफात जितने तकलीफात है, स्कीम जो है अभी हमने दूसरी स्कीम जो है वो आगे पेश नहीं किए हैं। पहली स्कीम जो है हमारी खत्म होने पर फिर दूसरी स्कीम जो है हम आगे उनको पेश करेंगे।
Future projects would of course have to be funded by loans or by the village organizations themselves, since AKRSP has limited resources. Now decision-making is centered where it belongs, with the villagers themselves. Problems they can't handle are referred to the social organization unit of the program. The unit staff live in the villages to nurture and sustain the village organization. The progress of every project is monitored, and its results are evaluated. The process is coordinated by Tariq Hussain, the program economist.
The idea is to set up an information system that will take information from the villages, bring it to us for ongoing evaluation, so that if we need course correction, if we need troubleshooting, if we need to solve logistical problems, all of that depends on monitoring. Then in 5 months.
Team members attend the weekly meetings of the village organization and hear what the villagers actually working on the project have to say about the way the job is going. Written records are kept of each meeting and of all the transactions within the organization. Field staff make reports each month before coming to the review workshop in Gilgit. Here the information is collated and progress summarized on charts and in quarterly reports. Surveys are made to quantify the benefits of each project and to learn more about the conditions of the area. The management group itself is constantly traveling to supervise the activities in the field. The General Manager also meets regularly with other members of the Northern Areas Development Coordination Body to make sure the program's efforts complement what the government is doing. The Rural Support Program is evolving in response to changing circumstances and is working towards planning for total village development. Perhaps the major challenge is to provide a more stable and productive environment. In its first few months, AKRSP has devoted most of its efforts to bringing entirely barren land under cultivation. For the future, there are plans for large-scale tree planting, for proper management of available water, and for improving the quality and the quantity of the pastures. The Rural Support Program is not intended to be a permanent institution. As the village organizations federate and form their own financing and marketing mechanisms, AKRSP's functions will gradually be taken over by entirely local bodies. For the development challenges of the future, these organizations will give the local people far greater capacity to determine their own destinies. AKRSP believes that its approach as a private company, organizing villages and introducing new ways to raise incomes, may have relevance in many parts of the Third World.
This development exercise is new, and I think that the first objective that I would have, and obviously the program alone isn't going to achieve it, is to enable these people who live in the northern areas to live here at a standard of living which is no lower than Pakistan's as a whole. In other words, that they should first catch up the national standard of living. After that, it may well be that we will find that they are exceptionally resourceful, and that these people might become, 15, 20 years from now, a microeconomic area which could have a substantial impact in this sensitive part of the world. I mean, in geopolitical terms, this is one of the most sensitive parts of the world, and that you should have a stable, economically sound population here is highly desirable.
The Aga Khan Rural Support Program is helping to build that stability, helping the communities themselves to work the changes that must come about if their lives are to become more rewarding, and if their children are to be fitted for a future that will no longer be enclosed by the walls of the mountain world where they were born.